Welcome back, folks, to Judeacation here on JNS TV. My name is Josh Hasten here in Jerusalem, the eternal capital of the state of Israel and the Jewish people. We are in the JNS Media Hub, and it is truly an honor to have a very special guest on this week's show, a great friend who I've known, I think, for over 20 years. Mark, 20 years, right?
Oh.
Yeah, it's been a while. Huh? Time flies when you're having fun. This is Mark Provisor, and a lot of people know who Mark is. He is a multidisciplinary artist whose work explores the intersections of trauma, resilience, and the human condition through abstract expressionism and symbolism. And he's going to tell me what all that means in here in just a few minutes.
We'll figure it out together.
We'll work on it. And he is also a security expert who has dedicated his life to the Jewish people and to saving lives in Judea, Samaria, the northern border, the southern border, anywhere where there's a potential security conflict or breach. Mark is there. Mark checks out what the situation is and finds solutions in order to save lives in Israel. Mark, it's great to have you on.
It's great being here. I didn't realize it's really 20 years.
We've known each other for a while. Yes, we have. We've had some good times.
What a long, strange trip it's been.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. And let's start with talking about security. You know, the reality you're in right now. Israel's fighting a war on 7 different fronts. I mean, where do you think all this is heading?
You know, I wish I knew the answer to that. I wish a lot more people knew the answer to it. Right now, it's simply ongoing. We have to remain strong and, like it said, resilient in the face of this. I am hopeful. I'm definitely hopeful. I think that this will lead to a better future. I'm hoping it will, and I really believe that it will. I look at our people, and I know it will. But it's challenging because each place has a different dynamic to it. I mean, Judea and Samaria obviously has its own dynamic. The southern border is what it is right now. The northern border, each place is different, and one must be creative to figure out how to make these places better.
I don't think we've discussed this, but I want to know from you, from a security perspective, in terms of Israel's failures on October the 7th, or in the days, weeks, months,
You're opening
years.
up a Pandora's box.
You know, from where you're sitting in the security world.
All right.
Discuss those failures.
All right. First of all, and it's like a Pandora's box. I've decided that I am not going to stay quiet anymore. And as you know, I stopped making public appearances and so on. The failure. This is not a failure that started on October 6th or months before. This is over 10 years. Over 10 years. Government, and I know I'm going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, governments have known about these problems for over 10 years. The North, it was the Radwan plan, was known to those who had to know. Same regarding Gaza, and of course, Judea and Samaria. So I really, I accuse our leaders, both the left and right.
Government leaders, military leaders, both?
Absolutely. Absolutely. From the various prime ministers to the defense ministers to the chiefs of staff, they knew it. They knew about this, but they insisted on looking at the situation through a Western eye, if you will. They were not taking it seriously, and this is one of the reasons for this incredible failure that went from A to Z. Total systemic failure. And I blame them. I admit having a lot of rage towards them. I mean, I can get into details, but I see probably no point. But it is something that has been known.
I was probably going to suggest rage from your perspective as a security expert, somebody who's been on the front lines providing life-saving equipment to Judea, Samaria, the north and the south. I want you to talk about this. I remember back all the way in 2014 where you literally were risking your life.
Weren't you with me?
I don't know if I was with you.
Did we go down together also?
I don't know if we went down to the southern border. I mean, we've hung out many, many times. Yeah. It's all kind of a blur, but I remember you going down to the southern border with your vest, with your helmet, dodging rockets. You had some friends, unfortunately, who were killed in that conflict. But talk about your work through the years, A, in this post-October 7th reality, and B, all the years leading up in terms of what you have done to get those communities safe, to get the people safe on the front lines, whose job it is to protect all those around them.
So if we look back to 2014, if we start with the southern border there, I received a call from the security directors and security chiefs, and I found it strange, first of all, because as you know, I've been focusing on Judea and Samaria through my work with One Israel Fund. And it was strange for me to get a call like that. I mean, you know, I was a security chief. I was
For the Shiloh area.
The Shiloh region until 2006. So when these guys called me, my first question was, why me? And they said, you've done this job. You know what it's about. At least come on down. And I actually, I loaded my Jeep up with a lot of equipment because it seemed that I figured they didn't have whatever. And I went down and started distributing equipment that was needed and also assessed the threats and dangers, what was happening. And I saw plenty of lackings. We actually started that, the old vests, people wearing tactical vests, we started that back in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
My friend Zevik was killed because he did not have the proper equipment.
He was the security chief, went out to fix,
yeah,
I think,
near him.
Down electrical pole. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and I saw that the vests that were being supplied to all these guys simply was not proper. And it wasn't just me. You have to realize I work with a team, and we developed this new vest, and the guys down south were the first to get them. 2014.
Right.
Goes back from before
ago.
now when everyone's, oh yes, this and this. We were already working with this. And thank God we were able to not just equip the southern guys, the guys in the south, but then all the security chiefs and so on, Judea, Samaria, various medics, and started changing it. But there I remember noticing an issue, whereas there was no security being supplied between the fence and the kibbutzim.
Right.
In their agricultural areas, and which is something that I brought up back then. But the responses that I was given was, no, we trust the army. And that's very important, what I'm saying right now. And the same thing along the northern borders. I'm not putting down the IDF, but nothing is infallible. In Judea and Samaria, the difference is that, yes, we do trust the army, but we know that they can't be everywhere all the time. And hence, through One Israel Fund, we decided, I started with One Israel Fund in 2008, taking over their security projects. And we worked on back is filling those gaps that there wasn't there. And that was the secret, looking for what does not exist and putting it in there. And obviously using my experience as a security chief throughout the Intifada, which in our area was hopping.
Yeah, talking about 2000 to 2003, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
In our area. So do you think in Judea and Samaria, and I think I've asked this to several guests, but you're the first security expert I've had on the show. Do you think we're prepared in Yudav Shimon, Judea and Samaria, if God forbid Hamas decides that they're going to unleash another similar October 7th style?
It can't happen in that style. It simply can't happen. The logistics don't allow what you're talking about.
They want to do it.
They can want all they want.
Right.
They have Jewish communities and Arab communities intertwined, and everyone's
Right.
saying, oh, October 7th can happen, and bring up scenarios. Everyone who's really speaking about it, and I don't mean to offend, but they really have no idea what the hell they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they want and their ability is two different things. Now, you also have to remember that the communities of Judea and Samaria, the Jewish communities, that is, live under this pretense constantly. This is a threat that's not new to us. And so we're constantly living like that. And so that means that they're more sensitive to things happening around. And also the IDF is more sensitive because, again, it is a different dynamic. Can attacks not like, it depends which area, maybe around the various Arab cities, the communities that are located close, whether it be, let's say, we could say Hebron, we can say, from Ramallah, Jenin, Shechem, but those are isolated areas that, of course, if the army's not looking at it, the communities are.
I want to switch gears here, and I want to get personal a little bit, if we can.
Let's do it.
You walked into the studios here,
yeah,
and the crew behind the scenes, I didn't see you sneak in.
I came right in the front door.
Right. No, you didn't know. You didn't pull any punches. But when you came in, they took a look at you and I'm not trying to offend anybody on the crew here, they took a look at you and wanted to know maybe if you were looking for the film school, which is down the hall here. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you don't look like the typical so-called settler, a word I don't use on the show, resident of Judea and Samaria. You're not wearing a kippah. You don't have any type of, I don't know, beard, or maybe a little bit of a, a scruff.
Just to keep it sexy.
Yeah, right. You have a long braid coming out of your hair. You got the shades,
the
John Lennon glasses. You got an ear pierced. And there's a perception in the world, and we saw it with our crew here, completely unscripted.
Absolutely.
There's a perception that so-called settlers look maybe more like me with a kippah.
Stereotype.
Right, a perception. I mean, the reality is, people don't know this, about a third of the residents of Judea and Samaria are ultra-Orthodox. Another third are, I would say, modern Orthodox or national Orthodox. And another third are secular. And I'm not putting you in any of those boxes.
No, absolutely.
At all. I would never do that to
I think it's a very important point you're bringing up.
But I want to know. I want to know, the perception of those who think you belong in the film school down the road.
The perception is
down the hall, yeah.
Because Judea and Samaria is as diverse. Are we still allowed to use that term?
Yeah,
diverse,
for sure.
Right? as any part of Israel. And people don't realize that. They think they hear Judea and Samaria and West Bank or whatever, and they perceive some guy with long payas, big beard, big keep out with an axe chopping down trees. And they don't realize that's not what makes up Judea and Samaria. And I think it's incredible. You see all types. I might be a black sheep in my community in a sense, just by the way I look, but you travel around and it is diverse. It is wonderful. I love it. Cities are not for me necessarily. And you go there, incredible amount of creativity, also like in the arts and music and so on. And it is not at all what people perceive it to be based on media reports or whatever. And I highly suggest that they should go out and see this, because if a lot of world Jewry who comes here and does not go over the so-called green line, well, they're missing out on one of the greatest jewels that this country has to offer.
Those who aren't coming because they're afraid, what would you say to them? Again, there are those who, for ideological reasons or political reasons, don't want to come out, but you do have people, and again, obviously, I'm not one of them. I go everywhere. You go everywhere. What do you say to those people? I'm afraid. I know there are people afraid just to come to Israel in general.
That's for sure. Look,
but
I understand.
Coming to Judea and Samaria, is it legitimate?
I understand the fear, and I can say, yes, if someone's shown a various threat or something, they can say, yes, it's legitimate. But then, I have a studio now in New York also where I create and do my art also. And I'm watching what's happening in New York. And, you get the reports. It's like, I feel safer here.
I do too.
Okay. No, and I'm being totally objective. I feel safer coming into Judea and Samaria. Every place has its dangers. If you blow something out, that's when the paranoia sits in. And for those people coming to visit Israel who are afraid, there are ways around the fear. There are tours that are quite protected, but don't miss out on this, because it's our identity. It's who we are. And again, you will see some of the coolest stuff happening in the country. And I mean, really cool.
There are a lot of Israelis who are even afraid to come out to certain areas. And you're talking about 20 minutes from Tel Aviv.
Yeah. Yeah. They're missing out. Though that being said, it was interesting during, back a few years during the COVID shutdowns and everything. Israelis love to travel.
Yes.
You go to Ben Gurion, they're all over the place, and the airport was shut down, and they were looking for places to travel. And they said, well, we can't go out of the country. And they started venturing out to Judea and Samaria. And I remember getting into some conversations with them, and they were like, we didn't know. Oh my God. Or a commercial for like the Shiloh regions. Go to the Shiloh winery. You want to see something incredibly beautiful? Tell Shiloh. It's incredible. So for the Israelis, getting over fear, if it's political, fine. I respect your opinion, whatever. One must get over fear, because it is crippling and doesn't do anyone any good.
I agree with you for sure.
Of course, that's why we're friends.
Let's talk about your art, because in reality, you are not a security chief who went into the world of art. You're an artist who was diverted into becoming a security chief because there was a need there. but you're in fact an artist. That's your passion. That's your
Sure,
love.
it's my hobby.
Right. And that's your profession.
Yeah.
That's who you are. You're an artist. You're not a security chief.
A few years ago, I had started my adult life off as an artist. After the army, I went traveling a little bit, just like everyone Israeli, and I decided to start school in New York, where I went to School of Visual Arts, Parsons, studied under various artists, and thank God was successful. Became a selling artist back then, gallery, the whole bit. And I returned when the Iraqi war started. I just couldn't deal with the country getting rocketed and bombed and so on.
This is 1991, yeah?
Yeah. And
Okay.
I came back, and the Israeli art world was very different back then. But to try to shorten the story, eventually moved out to Shiloh. I left art because supporting a family, I didn't want to take a chance of not selling or whatever. And the mayor of Shiloh, the legendary Ira Rappaport, he knew a little bit about my military background and said, take over our security. I'll give you a free studio, 2 hours a day max. Don't worry about it. You'll love it. I heard free studio.
Right.
That was it. I said, oh, I'm getting back to my art. It was not 2 hours a day. Things changed. I did continue painting, mind you, just because I have to. Eventually, Intifada started, and a lot of people are not aware of how violent and horrible that was in our area. And I stopped painting in 2002. The images and everything.
Right.
A few years back, trauma is a real thing. And post-trauma, obviously, I know it's a buzzword today, but I started having issues a few years back and decided, let me get back to the studio. And I was able to release a lot of the things that were happening, and I felt a lot better. It worked. I took it as a sign saying, that's it. You got to go back to being an artist. I was supposed to retire, started painting, really got back to the studio, learning about Instagram and everything, getting things up. And I was supposed to retire from the security world in October 2023.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. There goes that.
That didn't happen. But I have gone back to my art. I been in a number of shows, museum shows also. Thank God my paintings are bought. I opened up a studio also in New York where I travel back and forth when I can, depending on the situation. And I love it. It's the passion of my life. It's beyond. And I'm very grateful to God for allowing me to get back into it. It still combines the security things. When I go out to assess a threat, I'm sketching. There used to be a funny thing with the Army. When they would call me up to areas that are far, I'd say, no, leave me alone. They said, no, we have a great place. There's a spring. We're setting you up. In fact, pre-Lebanon for this thing. So I was called up to assess an area, and they said, no, we got you set up in a sniper's post. And I said, what are you talking about? They said, no, the sniper's here, the spotter's here. You set your easel up over here. Beautiful. It's very funny. So I really do combine art and security.
And a lot of your art does reflect your experiences in the security realm and some of the specific incidents that you've been in throughout the years.
So I started giving talks called Art in the Shadow of Terror, where it's 40 years, maybe more already, 40 years of being an artist while being in that realm. And it's a viewpoint that a lot of people don't get to see. But I do paint nice stuff too.
Right.
It's not all dark.
I've had the honor of being in your studio.
Absolutely.
It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get an invite to go there for those who are watching right now.
Well, they could either reach me on through Instagram at MARCMPRO, Mark M Pro, or through email, Mark MARC at Mark Pro Art. And if they're coming to Shiloh, that's the one thing. You want to come to my Shiloh studio, you gotta make it to Shiloh. You want to come to the New York studio, hit me up. If I'm available, if I'm there, always open.
In addition to the paintings you do on security, in general, how does living in Judea and Samaria impact what you come up with in terms of the art? I know it's not just painting. There's so many mediums which you use. But how does just living, forget about the security. We've talked about that.
It's beautiful.
Just living in Judea and Samaria.
I love landscapes.
Right.
I love them. And I see things in the mountains maybe that other people don't see. It's beautiful. It's just absolute beauty. And I mean, you remember when I don't have the old Jeep anymore, but in my car, I always have something to work with, a small easel or something. And I just see the beauty of the land and I love it. And it's incredible. Yeah, sure. There's some dark things that pop up and so on, but being in the quiet, being the outside, and Judea and Samaria is very diverse also. How would you say? Climatically, I guess would be the word. Or am I making up a word?
It sounds good to me.
Right.
Sounds good.
No, we have deserts, we have
Right.
hills, we have mountainous springs and so on. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. And that affects me.
That's beautiful stuff. Do you still do, by the way, those coffee times with Mark where you get in, you said you don't have that Jeep anymore. Where you get in a vehicle, take people out?
I really don't take
show them around. I know you're not a tour guide, but you still.
I don't take many people out.
I've had the privilege of it. It's great.
You're my
coffee time with Mark.
Yeah, come on.
Getting in the car, Turkish coffee, driving out, checking out different areas. Some of the places, I remember you took me out to a farm once, Itamar.
Yeah.
Those who know the community in the Shomron.
Yeah.
And you have the community of Itamar.
Yeah.
And then you have the adjacent hills.
Correct.
And I think there's 7 different mountaintops there. And we went past the 7th mountaintop. We were basically in the Jordan Valley, on top of the Jordan Valley.
There, yeah.
And people, I remember, served goat cheese, homemade goat cheese.
Oh, yeah.
Guy out there.
He's great.
You still do those trips for people who are
not
willing?
For people.
With people?
I'll do it there. I have some friends of mine that will come out and, I'll go around certain places and so on. It's interesting. I still love going out and making coffee, just hanging out with people, meeting up with the different people in the fields, and always something always happens. Not bad, but there's always something interesting that pops up, and it's just great. My son, who took over my position, actually will go out with not everybody, but
he's with the One Israel Fund.
Yeah, my son took over as the major security coordinator for One Israel Fund. I'm still there as a consultant working on special projects. But if people are serious, it's not a circus to us,
right?
And I have to say that we do not take this as little circus. Oh, come in, can you take me around and all that? We have a section for that. We have a tourist section, one of the best tour guides in the country.
Eve Harrow, we've had on the show.
Eve Harrow, great day trips and so on. But for people who are serious about keeping Jewish lives safe and secure, yes, the effort will be made to show them. And again, if they're serious. Otherwise, somewhere else.
Coffee for somebody else.
Right.
Not for people who aren't.
But it is a great experience.
It is.
Just hanging the coffee and out in the field.
It's great. There's nothing like it. You're missing out if you haven't been on a coffee tour with Mark. We're almost out of time. We started off on the optimism. We started off talking about October the 7th and all the terrible things, but you were optimistic at the very beginning in terms of where we're headed towards the future, both Judea and Samaria and the state of Israel and everything going on here. Let's finish on some optimism and even last thoughts or messages you want to get through to the people who are watching at home.
I have noticed a number of various organizations being started by the reservists, young people. I mean, we're talking from their 20s to their 40s and varied both sides of the political spectrum also. And I'm listening to these people. I'm listening to their strength, to their visions. And again, diverse. And I feel good. I admit that I think my generation, if you will, not getting the job done. And the job is right now unity. The greatest threat to Israel is not Iran, is not the Arabs who call themselves Palestinians, enemy nations abroad or whatever. Nothing. Our greatest challenge is unity, caring and respecting for each other. And this is always one of the great things that you get out of serving in reserves. I know there are various demonstrations, unity. And I'm watching these guys and they're bringing a picture of that. And that gives me a strong feeling of hope. I see, you said October 7th aftermath. Our people have learned a very serious lesson. And now the idea is to take that and use it for good, to advance. And so I feel that. I feel it. And I actually try to paint it in some of my works. I feel that we soon, going through some rough times right now, there's going to be a change. I know there'll be a lot of people against it, against the changing of old ways, but this is a nation that made the desert bloom. This is a nation that brings more solutions to the world to keep people alive than anyone. It's not going to stop. And I feel that.
Amen to that. I want to thank you so much for all the work that you do in the security realm. I want to wish you much luck in your art career.
God willing.
God willing. And I hope you sell a ton of paintings.
Amen.
And,
Amen.
I'm looking forward to our next coffee date, wherever it may be.
Absolutely.
Because those are awesome. Memorable, as you said. Remember, I remembered something we did, I don't know, 10 years ago in Itamar. So
long overdue.
We got to do it again.
We can't just hang out in
We
malls.
can't hang out here. We can't hang out in Mamila all the time.
Yeah.
We got to go out into the field, into Judea and Samaria. Mark Provisor, go to Instagram, check out his amazing art with galleries here in Israel, a studio here in Israel, and in New York City as well.
Absolutely.
It's an honor to have you on the show. Thanks so much for coming in, and happy Passover to you and yours.
And to all Am Yisrael.
And to all Am
Wonderful
Yisrael.
Pesach.
Good times ahead, folks. I like
Good
the
times
optimism.
ahead.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
I want to thank the production team behind the scenes here: Esther Eden, Yuri Svertsky, Zach Sickerman, Ryan Lifshitz, Timur David Acklin. My name is Josh Hasten. Another edition of Judeacation here on JNS TV. Go to JNS TV on YouTube for all the amazing content, and go to jns.org for all the latest breaking news from Israel, the Middle East, and the entire Jewish world, coming to you from Jerusalem at the JNS Media Hub. Wishing you and yours a happy Passover. Only good things. Shalom, shalom.